Ablutophobia, the fear of bathing. It sounds simple, but for someone with this phobia, stepping into the shower can feel like a roller coaster of anxiety. The trigger is usually a loss of control, water covering the body, the sound, the temperature, the feeling of vulnerability. Ablutophobia is often associated with childhood trauma, a bath that was too hot, water in the eyes, or even a near-drowning experience. But it can also be linked to OCD or generalized anxiety. The treatment? Gradual exposure therapy. Start with warm water, then slowly increase exposure. And yes, people with ablutophobia can recover. What makes this phobia especially challenging is that bathing is a daily necessity. People with severe ablutophobia often rely on dry shampoo, wet wipes, or other workarounds, which can lead to hygiene-related health problems. Some sufferers describe the anticipatory anxiety as worse than the bath itself. The fear builds for hours beforehand. Recovery usually takes months of consistent therapy, but success rates are notably high when patients commit to the process and work with specialized therapists. Xanthophobia, the fear of a color. Yes, you read that right. Some people experience genuine panic when they see yellow. It is not about the yellow object, it is the color itself. A banana, panic, a taxi, extreme anxiety, a traffic light. They avoid the street. The origin is still a mystery. Some researchers suggest it may be tied to negative associations, a traumatic childhood experience involving something yellow. Others point to a neurological sensitivity to the color itself. An interesting fact, xanthophobia is so rare that only a few documented cases exist in the scientific literature. And yes, living in a world full of yellow is challenging. Imagine avoiding entire supermarket sections because of fruit displays, or feeling anxious during sunrise and sunset when the sky turns golden. Some sufferers report that even yellow clothing on other people can trigger panic attacks. The condition is so unusual that many therapists have never treated a case, making it hard for patients to find specialized help. Online support communities have become lifelines for people struggling with this isolating condition, offering validation and evidence-based coping strategies that actually work. Pogonophobia, the fear of beards. It may sound overly specific, but it is real. People with pogonophobia experience genuine anxiety around bearded men. The trigger may be the texture, appearance, or even associations with aggressive masculinity. Historically, pogonophobia gained attention during the Victorian era, when beards were associated with rebellion and danger. Today, it is rarer, but it still exists, especially in people with trauma or sensory sensitivity. The phobia can severely affect social life, causing people to avoid friends, family members, or coworkers who grow beards. Some people report that the fear intensifies with darker or thicker beards, suggesting a visual component to the anxiety. Interestingly, the rise of beard culture in recent years has made life more difficult for those with pogonophobia, because they now encounter bearded men far more often in everyday situations than previous generations did. Therapists working with pogonophobia patients often begin with exposure to photos, then move to gradual in-person contact, allowing the nervous system to recalibrate at its own pace without overwhelming the patient. Arithmophobia, the fear of numbers. Now we are in truly rare territory. People with arithmophobia feel panic when they see or think about numbers. It is not difficulty with math, it is genuine fear. A number on a sign? Anxiety? A digital clock? Avoidance. The cause is often linked to traumatic experiences with math in childhood, a harsh teacher, bullying, or repeated failure. The number becomes a symbol of failure. An interesting fact, arithmophobia is so rare that most psychologists never encounter a case. But for those who do have it, it is deeply debilitating, especially in a digital world filled with numbers. Living with arithmophobia in the modern age is almost impossible. Phone numbers, addresses, prices, dates, timestamps. Numbers are everywhere. Some sufferers develop elaborate avoidance strategies, using words instead of numerals whenever possible, or asking others to read numbers aloud. The psychological cost is significant because the constant vigilance needed to avoid numbers creates chronic stress and anxiety. In severe cases, sufferers have reported avoiding banks, shopping, and even telling time, fundamentally restricting their independence and quality of life in ways most people cannot imagine. Somnophobia, the fear of sleep. This one is especially insidious. People with somnophobia fear the act of sleeping itself. Why? It may be fear of losing control, recurring nightmares, or even fear of not waking up. The result is chronic insomnia. People with somnophobia often stay awake for days, causing extreme fatigue, hallucinations, and worsening anxiety. It becomes a vicious cycle. Treatment may include exposure therapy, meditation, and sometimes medication. The goal is to retrain the brain to see sleep as safe. The irony is that sleep deprivation itself causes anxiety and paranoia, which reinforces the fear. Some sufferers report going weeks with minimal sleep, leading to cognitive impairment, memory loss, and dangerous decision-making. In extreme cases, prolonged sleep deprivation can lead to psychosis. The condition requires intensive psychiatric care, often combining medication, therapy, and sometimes hospitalization to break the cycle and restore healthy sleep patterns. Medical professionals now recognize somnophobia as a serious condition requiring specialized treatment protocols and long-term monitoring. Hapaphobia, the fear of being touched. People with hapaphobia have panic reactions to physical contact. It does not matter whether it is a hug, a handshake, or even a casual touch on the shoulder. The body goes into fight or flight mode. Origin: it is often associated with trauma, abuse, or anxiety disorders. The body has learned that touch equals danger, and now any physical contact activates that protective response. Hapaphobia is more common in people with a history of trauma or autism spectrum disorder. And yes, living without human touch can be deeply isolating. The psychological impact goes beyond the immediate fear response. Sufferers often experience profound loneliness because they cannot accept comfort from loved ones during difficult times. Relationships become strained when partners cannot hold hands or hug. Some people with hapaphobia develop alternative strategies, wearing gloves, keeping physical distance, or communicating mainly by text. But these adaptations often deepen their sense of isolation. Therapy often involves building tolerance slowly through controlled exposure, sometimes starting with inanimate objects before progressing to human contact in carefully managed steps. Phagophobia, the fear of swallowing. This one is especially debilitating. People with pseudodysphagia fear swallowing food, saliva, or even medication. The fear is choking, suffocating, or feeling that something will get stuck in the throat. The result can be malnutrition, extreme weight loss, and social isolation. People with phagophobia often avoid eating in public or with other people. Treatment involves gradual exposure therapy, starting with saliva, then liquids, then soft foods. It is a slow process, but it works. The physical consequences of phagophobia can be severe. Sufferers often lose significant weight, develop nutritional deficiencies, and experience weakened immune systems. Eating becomes a source of intense anxiety instead of nourishment. Some people resort to liquid-only diets or even feeding tubes to avoid the fear of swallowing solid food. The social impact is equally serious. Meals with family and friends become impossible, leading to isolation and depression. Recovery requires patience, because exposure treatment can take months or even years. Support from family members and therapists trained in exposure therapy is crucial for successful outcomes and long-term recovery. Cathosophobia, the fear of sitting. Yes, you read that right. People with cathosophobia are afraid of sitting down. The trigger may be fear of being trapped, losing control, or even fear that something bad will happen while seated. Its origin is often linked to trauma, claustrophobia, or anxiety disorders. The body comes to associate sitting with vulnerability or lack of control. Cathosophobia is so rare that only a few documented cases exist. But for those who have it, even sitting down to eat or work becomes a struggle. Cathosophobia creates a unique set of challenges in modern life. Office work becomes nearly impossible. Sitting at a desk can trigger panic. Driving becomes terrifying. Even attending social events where sitting is expected turns into a source of dread. Some sufferers develop compensatory behaviors, such as standing constantly, pacing, or staying in motion all day. The physical exhaustion of avoiding sitting, combined with the psychological stress of anticipating situations where sitting is necessary, creates a constant state of hypervigilance and fatigue. Phobias are not weakness. They are brain responses that can be reconditioned. If you have one of these phobias, or any phobia, know that you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not trapped. Therapy, gradual exposure, and patience work. Fear is a part of human nature, but it doesn't have to define your life. If this video was helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have a rare phobia that we didn't mention, tell us in the comments. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Your phobia doesn't define you. Your courage to face it does.